Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome today. My name is Luke Tannen, and I'm the president and CEO of Chicago Innovation, an organization that supports local innovators and entrepreneurs. And we are also a very proud partner and customer of Wintrust, like hopefully most of you in the audience as well. And in a moment, I'll be introducing today's event host, Melissa Donaldson. She's the Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer at Wintrust. But first, I wanted to pause to say it truly is such an honor to once again take part in today's event to celebrate Black History Month. And you know, at Chicago Innovation, we are very committed to supporting Black entrepreneurs, innovators, and business leaders who play a very important role in shaping our city's vibrant and diverse history. And you know, our vision statement is innovation is for everyone. And that really stems from a belief that everyone, regardless of race, gender, age, what neighborhood you hail from, etc., really should have access to the same types of resources and opportunities. And we recently launched a program called The Ladder, specifically geared towards helping to support Black innovators in advancing their careers, and will continue to promote Black-led innovation and entrepreneurship in our city. And the good news is we are not alone. And Wintrust is a great example of a company that I have long admired as a corporate leader and great corporate community citizen. It starts with Ed Weimer, who you'll meet soon too, right at the top, who, you know, he stands true to his principles. He knows that actions speak louder than words. And today's event really is just one example of Wintrust's deep commitment to diversity and inclusion. And, you know, it's a commitment where that torch is also carried by the passionate and compassionate Melissa Donaldson, who's Wintrust's Chief Diversity Officer. And she's a trailblazer. She's a strategic change agent, a great advocate for inclusion, for leadership, for efficacy, and really reinforcing humanity in business. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce her as today's event host. So please give a warm welcome to Melissa Donaldson.
Thank you, Luke. And we so appreciate your partnership personally and the partnership we have with Chicago Innovation. So welcome everyone. Thank you for taking your time out of a Tuesday afternoon. It's Tuesday. We didn't know how special the date was going to be when we scheduled this. But we welcome you to the Black History Month program 2022, Be the Change, Chicago Organizations Making a Difference. So this Black History Month panel discussion will spotlight the formidable grassroots efforts of 3 local organizations and what they're doing to make a difference to combat racial inequity and uplift Chicago's Black community. Joining the conversation today, we have the chief executives of the Chicago Urban League, My Block, My Hood, My City, and Project Hood, which includes Karen Freeman Wilson, the president and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, which is an organization that has, and for more than a century, worked to strengthen and achieve equity for Black families and communities through social and economic empowerment. And so we really want to welcome and thank Karen for being here. And then there's Jamal Cole, who is the founder and CEO of My Block, My Hood, My City, the city's fastest growing social impact organization, which inspires youth, empowers communities, and builds a better world one block at a time. Welcome, Jamal. And last but certainly not least, we have Pastor Corey Brooks. He is the founder and CEO of Project Hood and the founder and senior pastor of New Beginnings Church of Chicago, located in Inglewood on Chicago's South Side. We're also glad to have you here. Welcome, Pastor Brooks. Now, before we get started, I have a special treat. I am going to introduce to you an artist from Chicago Sinfonietta, which is another organization making a difference in Chicago's communities. So Edith Yoakley is a violinist from Chicago, and Miss Yoakley is a member of Chicago Sinfonietta and the Soul Symphony in Baltimore. While living in New York, Edith regularly played in the pit of Broadway's Phantom of the Opera. She's also played in the pits for many musical presentations and for a number of artists, including Barry White, Smokey Robinson, Diana Ross, Aretha Franklin, and many, many more. She is an orchestral, solo, and chamber musician, and she has literally performed all over the world. Today, Edith will perform for us a compilation. I think it's kind of a mashup of the National Black Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, and our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Edith Yoakley. My goodness, I just have chills. Thank you, Edith. That was fantastic. Fantastic. And the chat was just blowing up with that as well. Thank you so much. So you can catch Edith and the rest of the musicians with the Chicago Sinfonietta, which is a professional orchestra dedicated to modeling and promoting diversity, inclusion, and both racial and cultural equity in the arts through the universal language of symphonic music. You can catch their next performance May 14th and 16th with their Limitless Horizon concert, May 14th in the Wentz Concert Hall and May 16th in Symphony Center in downtown Chicago. So thank you again, Edith, and thank you, Chicago Sinfonietta. Now, without further ado, I want to turn the screen over to Ed Weimer, CEO and founder of Wintrust Financial Corporation. Take it away, Ed.
Thanks, Melissa. Edith, that was beautiful. You're a tough act to follow, I'll tell you that. Welcome, everybody. I think we should just listen to Edith play all day. That'd be really fun. That being said, we're proud today to be having this webinar. I think this is really important one because we have people actually walking the walk, not just talking about it, but people actually who are in the trenches trying to make this a better city and get better lives for everybody in it. So it was a beautiful start and hopefully be a beautiful finish here. So, Wintrust is founded here in Chicago. It's a company that has its roots here and its business here. So what goes on in Chicago is very important to us in every aspect. Our branch footprint now goes from Milwaukee. We are Wisconsin too. I'm not a Packer fan. Don't give me that going on that. But from Hyde Park to Lawndale, Fulton Market to Avondale, Old Town to Lakeview, Pilsen to North Park. We have branches every place. We're not done growing yet. Joining us today are three distinguished panelists who I think you're going to love to hear from. Again, these guys are really making a difference by their actions, not just their words. I think we'll have a meaningful discussion. Hopefully next year we get together again. There's always a lot more fun. You can have a couple of drinks when you're doing it, but let's get going. Why don't we start with Pastor Corey Brooks? You there, Corey? On the roof?
Yes, sir.
That's awesome. Corey, you want to tell us a little about you and your journey and what you're doing on the roof, man?
Absolutely. Well, let me say to Ed Weimer and also Wintrust Bank, thank you, Chicago Innovation, for allowing us to have this panel. And I am so grateful to be able to participate. So we started a church on the south side of Chicago. We wanted to be contemporary, creative, and credible. And so we decided that we were going to go to one of the toughest areas in Chicago. In 2013, the Chicago Sun-Times wrote an article calling it the most dangerous block in all of Chicago, O Block, which is right where we are, 64th and King Drive. We're at 66th and King Drive. 10 years ago, as a result of that, there was a lot of violence that was going on in our community that wasn't being dealt with in a satisfactory way as far as I'm concerned. And there was a hotel across the street from our church that was responsible, we felt, for a lot of the sex trafficking that was going on, a lot of the drug sales that were going on. Gangs were using it as a haven, as a safe place. And I decided to go up on the roof of that motel and refuse to come down. And I ended up staying there for 94 days to bring attention and awareness to the violence in Chicago, but also to raise as much money as possible to purchase that motel, which we were successful in doing. Tyler Perry gave us the last $100,000 we needed to purchase it. Marty Ozinga from Ozinga Concrete gave us the last $150,000 we needed to tear it down. And we were successful in doing that. That was 10 years ago. Now here we are at the same date 10 years later, and I'm on top of a roof again, but this time I'm not trying to tear something up. I'm trying to build something up. We're in the process of building an opportunity center where we can help people to transform their lives. And I'm on top of this roof trying to raise the funds to do that. We're raising $35 million, $8 million, which we've raised in the last 94 days that we're really grateful and thankful for. And we're going to continue our fight and our journey until we're able to build this community center. Our goal is to build it debt-free. So I'm on top of the roof now. It's our 10-year anniversary. It's our 10-a-thon. Wintrust has been a major supporter, and we're grateful for that. And so many people from around the city and around the country have been supporting our efforts to transform this block from O Block, which was named after a young man named O.D. Perry who was shot and killed. The gangs picked up the O in his name and started calling it O Block. We're going to keep the O, but we're going to change it to Opportunity Block. And we're going to bring opportunities to individuals so that their lives can be drastically changed forevermore.
You might want to reconsider that debt part. We make money on the loans we get. Very un-American of you, but I get it. Congratulations on the 8 million, and let's get you going, man.
Absolutely.
Couple of questions for you, if I can.
Absolutely.
On a given night in January 2020, just before the COVID-19 epidemic changed the world as we know it, an estimated 10,431 Illinois people and 5,000 400 Chicagoans are homeless. You've seen the result of poverty and homelessness as close as you're in your congregation. Well, would you say this problem has gotten worse? What does the data not tell us about the issues?
Absolutely. I think since that time, definitely homelessness has gotten worse. There are individuals who are struggling to make ends meet. They're trying to survive. They're trying to keep their families together. And as a consequence, during this pandemic, what the statistics don't tell us is all the trauma that these families have experienced. So many of them have experienced the trauma with their young ones, with their immediate family, trying to hold on to their homes, trying to remain sane, trying to keep things going. And I think a lot of times we look at these statistics and we say, okay, individuals are becoming homeless. But what those statistics don't tell us is the amount of pain, the amount of heartache, the amount of struggle and frustration that many people are feeling as a result of this pandemic and all that is going on. And then you add to that the crime that is a result of individuals not having enough to take care of themselves.
Stress level has to be unbelievable for those folks.
Absolutely.
There's a difference between stress and distress. Stress, you can do something about. Distress, you can't do anything about it. It's debilitating, I know.
Absolutely. There are so many who are distressed. You're right.
Yeah, it's sad, especially in a great city like this.
Absolutely.
Let's go quickly to poll question number one. According to one study, approximately how many renters in Illinois risked eviction before the state's eviction moratorium ended? I know the answer, so I won't vote. Got the results there?
Okay, Ed, and results coming in just a second. Here we go.
I got it right. 542,000 is the right number. A bad number, but a right number. Have you seen this in Englewood, Pastor Brooks? Do you on the eviction side is it still, I mean, the moratorium's ended, and are there still evictions going on, or what's going on there?
Yeah, we've just now started to see people facing evictions to a large degree. So one of the things that we're doing here at Project Hood to help with that is that we're offering webinars and seminars as it relates to renters' rights. But we're also trying to balance it as well, because we know that landlords have to make a living as well. And so we're also doing landlords' rights. We're living in a very difficult time where the stress is so great on both ends. And it's very unfortunate because you have landlords who, as you know, have to pay mortgages sometimes, and they have to keep things going. And it's very heartbreaking that they have to go to the degree to evict people, but we are seeing more evictions. And I believe that the more evictions that we're going to see, especially as the summer approaches, it's going to continue to escalate the crime that we're seeing as well. More individuals on the streets, and more individuals who are desperate, more individuals who are trying to find their way leads to more difficult in the city.
Yeah, it's a vicious circle, isn't it? I mean, people don't want to invest in the community because of the crime, but the crime is going to occur because people don't want to invest in the city.
Yes.
How do we break it?
Yeah, I think we have to continue to invest. We have to continue to have programs like ours and other organizations that you have on the panel today, so that we can express what we're doing, the work that we're doing, because a lot of times I'm thankful for this platform, because a lot of times people are not aware of people who are trying to make programs like ours work, and programs who are on this panel. But it's these programs and these things that are serving people that can help them to keep their homes, help them to keep their situations going in a positive direction. So we got to keep working. It's all hands on deck, and we can't afford to lighten up at all.
I agree. Education's such a big part of it.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, in our neighborhood, unfortunately, and I'm saying this, one of the schools, 4%, the kids are reading at a 4% proficiency level, 6% math proficiency level. And if we continue to have those type of cycles, you're going to have large amounts of kids who are dropping out of school. And that means when large amounts of kids are dropping out of school, they're more apt and more prone to get involved in gangs and become problems for our city and problems for the community. So we have to continue to fight. We have to continue to all participate to make life better for everyone in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, I think school choice would be helpful. I hate to say that as a teachers on here, but you got to have a choice. I mean, the public schools in many cases, not to the fault of the teachers, but I think through other faults, are letting the kids down, and we got to do something about it. I know
Absolutely.
Crystal Ray is helping, and Chicago Jesuit Academy, and
Yes. I was gonna say school choice, but I didn't want to get you in trouble or get myself in trouble. But I believe that school choice is a civil rights issue for our day. Every time that we demand these kids who are in our neighborhood, who are already dealing with crime and various issues, when we demand that they go to a local school, a failing school, that's a civil rights issue. And these kids are being forced to go to these failing schools, and it's causing serious problems. So I believe in school choice. I believe school choice is the way out of poverty. I believe that taxpayers' money, a parent ought to be able to take that money to the school of their choice to provide for their child a better education.
couldn't agree more with you. I understand you want to open up a school in your center there.
Yes, our goal is to open up a school. We want to have a school for young Black boys who live in this neighborhood, who come from on kids who come from single parent households, who live below the poverty line. And not only that, are we going to do it K-8, but we're also trying to make sure they all have all male teachers. We want to have a strong discipline school, a strong academic school with a lot of excellence. And we're going to raise the standard, not lower the standard, as we see some doing across the country, trying to lower the standard as if we need Black kids, the standard to be lower for them to succeed. We believe that kids can succeed by making sure that the standard stays the standard and increasing the standard and helping them reach the standard. So we're definitely going to start a school, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with everybody on this panel about the wonderful things our school is going to accomplish.
It's great, and you got us behind you on that one too.
Thank you.
Why don't we move on to Karen Freeman Wilson, CEO of Chicago Urban League. Karen, you with us?
Yes, Ed, I'm right here.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Living a dream every day. Some days it's a nightmare, but it's a dream. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Urban League and what you're up to these days?
Well, I'm glad to do that. And first, I just want to say what an honor it is to participate with Wintrust and the other panelists. I've long admired Pastor Corey and his work, and we've been able to count them as a partner, but we have also been able to count on Wintrust as a partner, whether it is the work that we do in our Housing and Financial Empowerment Center that you support, or the opportunity to display our messaging on the billboard or the building that you all commandeer. It's a tremendous partnership, and we are forever grateful for you and Melissa and the entire team. So I want to start with that. So I am the president and CEO of the Chicago Urban League, an organization that has fought for equity and social justice for Black families in the city of Chicago for over 105 years. Prior to that time, I had the honor of leading the city of Gary, Indiana, for 8 years as the mayor. And what I like to say is that I get the opportunity to continue the work that I am passionate about. In our case, in the case of the Urban League, programming in housing, entrepreneurship, leadership development, workforce development, youth and family services, and to do that without worrying about garbage, potholes, and snow. So now when it snows, I just think somebody ought to do something about that, and it happens. But, not only does the Urban League engage actively in programming, but we also serve as a convener in the Black community. We have been very active in trying to ensure or to maximize the census count over the last 3 years prior to the 2020 census. In addition to that, we have served as a convener of organizations, leading organizations in the community, coming together to talk about what a Black policy agenda might look like. And then there are times that we convene just one-off conversations about health equity, about the importance of entrepreneurship and supporting Black entrepreneurs and things of that sort. And then we also have a research and policy organization. In fact, we are the only affiliate of the National Urban League, and there are 91 affiliates, that has a research and policy arm that focuses on research, advocacy, and policy on behalf of the Black community. And the work that has come out of that shop has included COVID-19 and the Black community, a paper that was published in May of 2020, when we started to see the disparities laid bare from COVID-19. We also published the Whitewashed, which was our way of highlighting disparities in opioid treatment, and then the cost of segregation. We looked at the legacy, the 100-year legacy of discrimination in Chicago and the impact that was having, not just on the Black community, because I think you can kind of think about what impact it has on the Black community, but really on the progress of Chicago as a whole. Right now, we're working on a publication that underscores the cost of being Black. What do I mean by that? There are things that just cost more if you are a Black Chicagoan. And so on occasion, we have published the State of Black Chicago. We're going to publish it this year, and we're going to highlight the cost of being Black, whether it's insurance, whether it is consumer goods in our local stores. We're going to talk about the cost of healthcare, or really the inaccess or not having access to healthcare. We're going to talk about all of those things in our upcoming State of Black Chicago.
Let's talk, I go off script here for a minute, but the access to healthcare, what's the issue? We got the greatest hospitals in the world in Chicago. What's the issue with the access? I know we sponsored a lady, her name escapes me now, who just passed away, who did the hair thing. They had the hair. It's Melissa. Who was it? Tell me out.
Christia Donaldson.
Yes, Christia Donaldson. Absolutely.
No relation.
Yes.
We gave a large grant to Northwestern to help study over $500,000 to help study this inequity issue. Especially for her and the breast cancer, which she actually succumbed to, which broke my heart. But it was very interesting. But I'm on the board of Northwestern and Lurie. How we do reach out, but it's just people don't. The issue came up with people don't follow up. In other words, they'll have the test, but they can't follow because there's nobody to watch the kids. It's all social issues in terms of what I could tell from the research was all social issues and not access, but inability to get out of their job and go take care of themselves.
Well, some of that is certainly accurate, Ed, in terms of people having overriding concerns. It's hard to make and keep doctor's appointments if you're worrying about the basics: food, clothing, shelter. If you don't have the flexibility on your work hours to say, I need to make a doctor's appointment at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and perhaps I work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I don't have the time to take. But separate and apart from that, there are inequities that are created by the lack of insurance, even the lack of public insurance, whether you're talking about the Affordable Care Act, whether you're talking about Medicaid or Medicare. The lack of information is critical. And, you know, I've seen this just as a caregiver. We've cared for my mother for 10 years in our home, and she is a Medicaid recipient as a waiver candidate because she's a 6-time stroke survivor, but she also has insurance from my father as a retiree of United States Steel. But notwithstanding that, I have spent the last month trying to get catheters paid for that she requires every day, and I'm being sent 4 of them. And so, you know, I know how to navigate the healthcare system, or at least before this month, I thought I did. But I am having a tremendous amount of difficulty doing that, even with my persistence and insistence. So think about the people who don't have time to sit on the phone. Think about the people who don't have the patience, or think about the people who simply are overwhelmed by so many of life's other challenges that they have just decided, you know, I'm just not going to do that. And what I decided when I said I'm not going to do that is that I'm going to pay $30 for the catheters on Amazon. But I should not have had to do that. And the good news is I was blessed enough to be able to pay that $30, but everybody can't make that payment. It doesn't seem like a lot to us, but that can be the difference between really having access to a small medical device for a feeding tube that could be a game changer for so many other folk.
Yeah, it's a complicated issue for sure.
It is. It really is.
You refer to Chicago as a tale of two cities, contrasting the level of investment resources, north side neighborhoods and the south side. The Urban League has been active in creating a new narrative by investing in both physical neighborhoods and people. How have you been doing that?
Well, you know, Chicago has unfortunately been a tale of two cities, but here's the good news. With a number of organizations coming together through the Poverty Summit, and that is a solution summit that was done in February of 2020 to really look at the issue of poverty in our community through initiatives like South by Southwest, through the work that, or Invest Southwest, which is a city's initiative, but also through other governmental investments, whether they're investing in entrepreneurship, supporting Black businesses, or whether they are investing in affordable housing, as Wintrust and other banking institutions have done. We are beginning to see a commitment to investment. Now, what we have to see now is really to sort of get all of the oars going in the same direction. Because if we see separate and disparate investments over from this corporation and from this governmental entity and from this individual, you won't have the impact. You won't see the scale that we need to see to really combat decades and centuries of disinvestment in the South and West sides of the community. And so our job at the Urban League, and this is again our convener role, is to say to those who are making the investment, would you consider aggregating what you're doing with what the Chicago Community Trust is doing, with what Wintrust is doing, with what McDonald's is doing, other entities are doing to really push back against the racial wealth gap that we have seen in the city of Chicago.
That's interesting. Why don't we do our poll question here? How many Black people live in Chicago today? I know the answer. I can't vote again. In Chicago, I should be able to vote off on them, right?
All right, Ed, we've got answers coming in. Just about everyone has responded. We'll give it just a few more seconds here.
Okay.
Okay, closing it out and launching results.
Up, off on this one. The answer is 787 or 787,500. About a third of the population, I think, right? Isn't that about right?
That is correct.
That's interesting. You know, people power cities, and there's been extensive discussions about the exodus from Chicago for lots of reasons. Overall population has rebounded to a certain extent, with one notable exception. Remember, Black Chicagoans now stand at 787.5, down from more than 1 million 20 years ago. What are your thoughts on that, Karen?
So first, I thought it was very interesting that a majority of those who answered the poll thought we were closer to 1 million, not recognizing or seeing or even being aware of that downward trend. I think that this really does underscore how Chicago is becoming less and less affordable for Black families. It's also underscoring what Pastor Corey talked about earlier, which was the concern relative to the education. A lot of folks have left the city because they have concerns about inequities in education. The other thing that I think we see is that, there's a concern about crime. I mean, we have to be very transparent about this. And I know that the mayor and her team are working, certainly the superintendent, the mayor are all working to address crime. But when people believe that they are unsafe, and we've seen some alarming statistics from the University of Chicago's crime lab that show that it is increasingly less safe to be Black in Chicago, then people are really making a decision based on those factors.
Well, the state's a mess too. I mean, you think about the fiscal problems the state has, despite the fact they have a balanced budget, they balance on the back of federal funds. We don't have a real core budget that makes sense. We're going to go right back next year into that deficit position.
Well, I think the challenge that you have there is that there has not been a permanent solution to the pension problem in the state of Illinois. I think that certainly we are seeing through a balanced budget, we're seeing through working to develop a solution to the pension problem and some potential solutions on the horizon, a commitment to it. Before, there wasn't even a mechanism on the horizon. Now we see a few mechanisms on the horizon either through casinos or through development. And if we see that shepherded in the way that we are seeing it happen now in terms of having a balanced budget, I think we'll see a solution to that problem. But you're right, all of these things have to work together.
It's interesting because poor people, people on the poor spectrum are leaving because they can't afford it. People who can't afford it leaving because they can go someplace else and keep their money in terms of the taxes and what have you in Illinois. You see it in California, Illinois, across the board. It's just, it's such a beautiful, it's got everything going. This city has everything going for it. It's got transportation, it's got people, it's got universities. There's no reason this should not be a bigger gem than it is.
Well, you know, you won't find a more exciting city, even with Chicago being the third largest. If you look to LA, if you look to New York, Chicago, with its magnificent skyline, with its magnificent downtown, with its diversity, really does paint a picture and remains a jewel. The issue is it has to be a jewel for everyone. And that's why it's so important for all of us to work together.
Well, you're right, it is. And on the south and west sides, where they have the deserts there, it's, you know, we're trying, we're opening branches there. Chances are we'll open one up in Pastor Brooks's new facility if it all works out. But
that would be awesome.
That's the plan. He doesn't know that yet, but that's the plan. Can't wait. He's got to borrow a little money though to make it work. But anyhow, I guess our third panelist is unable to join us. So why don't we move right to get Pastor Brooks back on? We'll have a little discussion on other issues.
Absolutely.
I'm glad to.
There you are.
That's a great announcement, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm ready to borrow all the money.
Great. Let's talk about the violence for a second. Media reports have spotlight a dramatic uptick, both homicides and shootings across Chicago, particularly in communities of color during the first 2 years of the pandemic. What is fueling this epidemic of violence, and what can we do about it? What do you think about the mayor's proposal that she has out to kind of RICO the gangs, I guess be the best way to put it?
Well, let me address the first part, the latter part that you asked about the mayor. I don't think those type of efforts are going to assist us in curbing the violence. You're talking about individuals who are already impoverished, individuals who, these gang members who are committing these crimes and shooting individuals and shooting kids, walking to the gas station to get snacks for their family, being shot 24 times at 15 years old. These individuals aren't individuals who have large sums of money. If they had large sums of money, the last thing they would be doing is out shooting at individuals in the streets. So I don't think that that policy is going to hinder any type of violence. The reason why, one of the reasons why there are numerous of issues on why we see the violence happening in Chicago. We've already talked about the education issues, but there's also so much divestment on the south side and west sides of Chicago in business structures. I know that money has been poured in for years to try with all the different programs, but there's never been a strong emphasis and a strong focus on establishing businesses and building these Black businesses so that they can give an infrastructure to the community to stabilize it economically. You go down streets on the west side and there are businesses that used to be. You go down 63rd Street and I hear about all the wonderful things that 63rd Street used to have, all the wonderful Black businesses. And I've learned so much about them, like Mr. Fuller and Mr. Johnson, all of these individuals who had thriving businesses. That the emphasis on that and the investment in that has not happened. And then you add in the fact that we do have a serious gang problem. And unless we get these individuals who are likely to be shot or to be shooters involved in programs that are directly targeted toward them, to move them from carrying guns to starting to carry some hammers and building some structures, we're never going to experience the type of peace that we want to see, and fruitfulness and productivity that we want to see for our city. So we have to do a better job at knowing who these shooters are, and we have to do a better job at getting these shooters the wraparound services that they need to transform their lives. We have to target them.
I think that Pastor Corey is right on point. I think we also, to the extent that there are programs who are intervening in violence and have intervention strategies, you have to have partnerships between the programming entities like the Chicago Urban League, so that as soon as someone has been, as soon as there has been an intervention, you can say to them, you know, we have this building trades program. You know, we have a urban tech program that will allow you to get involved in cybersecurity and get trained in cybersecurity. I think that once you begin to do and offer viable alternatives, people will, they're going to test and make sure that you are serious about it, you know, because it's not the first time that they've heard about programming, but also the follow through, the wraparound services, the problem solving. Because again, you know, someone can say, well, here's a piece of paper and you can sign up for this program, or here is a program that will allow you not to have to make money other ways. Here is the transportation. Here is the removal of other barriers to your participation. And here is a job at the end of that training period or on the job training that will allow you to be successful.
I've been toying with this really goofy idea in my mind. I'll throw it by you guys, just tell me how goofy I am. But what if you brought back the concept of a reform school, not the way it used to be, but to take these kids who are violent, who may have issues, laying back on the street is not working. I think we could all say that for the most part. Put them in jail doesn't work. What if you made them take an IQ test and go to a school? Had to go to a, you know, like a take an old college campus been shut down, make them go there and learn and take tests and give them what you're trying to do, Pastor Brooks, but make it more of a formal thing as opposed to put them in jail where they just get worse, lay them out where they don't change. Give an IQ. You got a lot of smart people there who could do really well and add a lot to the community and what have you. But what's happened to them now doesn't make any sense to me.
I think that's a wonderful idea as far as providing an alternative for these individuals who are definitely committing, some of the individuals who are committing nonviolent crimes, who are looking to possibly transform their lives, looking possibly to do something different. I think that is a viable option, to have a place where they could go other than prison to transform their lives and get them on the right track. But I also believe a bigger investment in school choice early on prevents all of that from happening in the first place. So right now we're kind of working backwards, and we need these institutions like you just mentioned. But I think a better concept is to make the investment early on in these schools that people have a choice to go to, so that we would not need these type of alternatives. That, I think, that is the ultimate goal. But until then, we definitely need to come up with an alternative to prison for some of these individuals who are committing crimes, who don't need to go to prison. They need an alternative operation.
Even some of the violent crime guys, these young kids, they don't know what they're just trying to make good in a gang or do whatever. to get them out of that, put them in a situation, because you got a lot of smart kids out there who aren't being pulled to their potential. Make them, judge goes, you're gonna get your high school degree and you get out, something
Yeah.
like that. I think it'd be a great use of money, but what do I know? I was barely lucky I got out of college myself, so.
Well, I just want to underscore what Pastor Corey said about in making the investments up front. And we've seen this in so many areas, whether you're talking about with drug treatment courts, given the people who are driven by addiction to alcohol and other drugs, to invest in them up front, but also if you invest in education, if you invest in community-based organizations that teach youth entrepreneurship. Right now, we have a youth entrepreneurship program going on down in the south suburbs in Markham and Harvey, because we understand, like you've already said, Ed, that these kids are smart, that they have aspirations. I mean, nobody grows up thinking, I want to be a drive-by shooter when I grow up, because that's a gamble, right? Some are successful, most are not. And so to the extent that that's the case, let's provide those viable alternatives before you even have to get to that decision of choosing jail over reform school. And you always have to be very careful about, putting everybody in the same place and pigeonholing people, because let's face it, as a society, we tend to stigmatize folks so very easily, whether it's because of their experience in being incarcerated or addicted to alcohol and other drugs, or other forms of stigma that we place on people.
Well, I just think it'd be a nice transitional element. We talked about education, choice in education, I think that's important. We give a lot of, the cost that per kid in the Chicago public schools, 2 of my kids are teachers, by the way. So we talk about it a lot.
God bless them.
They do a great job, but man, it's a tough job they do. And they really don't have I don't know where the money goes. They don't have the resources they need. Anyhow, Melissa, we have some questions for the audience. You want to throw them in, or?
Sure, Ed, then I'll just read it off. So from Bill and Rita, they said that many Black men in Chicago have already spent time in prison. Are there sufficient targeted resources to get these men into real jobs, therefore depleting the pool gangs draw from? And I assume that question is for men and women. Anyone?
I'll let the president, Karen, to speak about from the Urban League. I know they do a lot of great things, and then I'll follow up and tell you what we do, but they do a lot of great things to support those efforts.
First, I want to thank them for that question. And I think the operative word is, are there enough? And I would say unequivocally, no, notwithstanding the work that the Safer Foundation is doing, notwithstanding the work that we're doing. In fact, we have a program that was supported by R3 with the Safer Foundation that focuses on creating opportunities in tech jobs for returning citizens. And again, I was talking earlier, while we may create the training opportunities, at the end of the day, as you know, from seeing the work of North Lawndale, of seeing the work that Pastor Corey and his team are doing, if there are not companies who will provide employment, you can train until you're blue in the face. The opportunity for employment must be there. And here's the thing, you have to really ask yourselves, when you say that you immediately allow people or forbid people from working for your company because they have criminal history, you always have to ask the question, is this decision reasonably attached to the job that they're doing? And more often than not, it is not. And so we really, we want to work with training, but we also need to work with the employers. I'm going to turn it over to the expert.
So thank you. We definitely work with returning citizens. A big part of what we do is working with those individuals to make sure that they go back home to their families and come back into society to be productive. So our emphasis on our returning citizens program, our reentry program, is giving them all the services that they need, whether it's counseling, whether it's removing barriers to getting licenses or whatever legal issues, so that they then can get the training that they need, so that they then can go to work. So we remove the barriers, we train them, and then the third thing that we do that President Karen said it was so important is the collaboration. We collaborate with a lot of individual companies to make sure that we get these individuals jobs. For instance, today, we had a construction class to graduate. Most of that construction class was made up of individuals who are re-entering our society. They've been out of prison for less than 2 years. Now we partner with companies, construction companies, to sit down and interview them, but not just to interview them to just go through a process, but to make sure that they get a job. So we commit to make sure that they get jobs, and we commit to these companies that we're going to provide them quality trained individuals. Although they are re-entering our society, they're going to be well trained, they're going to be well counseled and ready to go. And I think those are the type of commitments we have to make to one another. And those are the type of services that we have to continue to provide if we're going to see individuals coming out of prison excel.
Melissa?
Sure. Is Mayor Lightfoot collaborating with either Project Hood or the Chicago Urban League to develop and invest in a prioritized list of projects that will develop business structure in Black Chicago? Or is she canceling projects that have failed? Ed, you've probably got some thoughts on that one too.
I'll let Karen start.
So I'll start. I believe that we have seen a significant investment by Mayor Lightfoot and her administration in entrepreneurship early on. You may recall that in 2020, during the pandemic, there were so many businesses that had to close their doors. And we saw micro grants because there was an acknowledgement by the city that so many of the small businesses in our community were not getting the PPP dollars. They weren't eligible, or they weren't able to access it. They didn't have existing banking relationships. There were a number of barriers to accessing that first round of PPP dollars. And then we saw additional dollars being directed at businesses as they began to open up. And there was an entire package that was supported by the Lightfoot administration and passed by the members of the Chicago City Council, where they were trying to make it easier, things as simple as signage for businesses to operate and to rebound during the recovery process. As always, there is more to be done. And I think that's why we've seen so much work happening at the state level, and what we have done and what we will continue to do with the Urban League as sort of develop a blueprint, if you will, to present to the city and say, these are the areas, businesses, crime prevention, affordable housing, that we need to see a concerted effort for investment, and how we might leverage, and to talk about ways that we might leverage existing investments so that the city's dollars, the COVID money seems to be a lot, right? When you hear $1 billion or billions of dollars, you think, oh, that's a lot of money. But in a city like Chicago, that really is only a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, we saw that PPP issue in the inner city, especially in the Black and Hispanic communities, where they didn't know what to do or how to do it. We set up resource centers and ended up doing what, 12,000 or 13,000 loans in total. I think we did like 15 or 2,000 for these guys. They didn't have a computer. They didn't know how to do it. And we got it done for them, which was very heartening on our staff. And everybody felt good about what we did, but obviously it wasn't enough. Pastor Brooks, do you have a comment on this?
No, I think our president answered it so very well. And I think I don't think I could add anything else to what she just said. That was a perfect answer.
How are we doing on time, Melissa?
We're doing well. Final question here. Why are stores, meaning grocery stores, clothing stores, etc., closed almost overnight on the south and west sides of Chicago, forcing Black and brown shoppers to spend money that would or could or should be used to build up their own communities? Anyone?
I'll talk about that because that is really one of the areas of focus for our Center for Entrepreneurship. There are very often cost barriers, the lack of capital, the lack of a broader customer base that you will find with businesses on the south and west sides that have an impact on their ability to be profitable and to continue to operate. There were restrictions, and understandable restrictions, necessary restrictions that were placed on businesses, on all of us. And I won't even call them restrictions as much as there were protections, but those protections cost, and it had an adverse impact on those businesses. Now, the challenge, and I think the answer to those protections is to really provide additional support. And what does that support look like? It certainly looks like access to capital. And I know that Wintrust and so many of the other banks have said, we want to enhance access to capital. But in addition to that access to capital, you have to look at the opportunities for technical assistance. The Chicago Urban League has a technical assistance program where we provide hands-on business counseling, business advice. The Women's Small Business Center does the same thing. There are Sunshine Enterprises does the same thing. Axion, and I know they have a new name and I forget it right now, does the same thing. Those organizations provide support to small businesses on the south and west side so that they won't be as susceptible to the ups and downs of the economy. And again, that takes me back to the fact that we have to work this together. You can't just have one bank providing a program or two banks providing a program. You almost have to have millions of dollars being invested so that these businesses can not only survive, but thrive. And we have to have customers. That's why we supported the initiative Black Shop Friday, along with the city, along with Target, along with other organizations to say, not only should you think about the traditional businesses that you use on Black Friday, think about shopping on some Black businesses. And then the Urban League added, not just on Black Friday after the day after Thanksgiving, but do it every day of the year.
Yeah, I just want to add something real quick. When I think about these businesses, especially like grocery stores and some of these anchors that we need in our community, three quick things come to mind: crime, insurance, profit. That a lot of times the crime is so bad in these neighborhoods that it makes it very difficult for these businesses to stay stable. So whatever we do, we've got to eliminate and get rid of crime. And I've talked to so many business owners, especially small business owners, who are trying to start businesses with their entrepreneurial spirit in these areas, but yet they can't have a great profit margin or a good enough profit margin because their insurances are alarmingly high. I just found this out recently about how high insurance is for some of these businesses to be established. That is a direct result of the crime. And so if we don't eliminate the crime, we're going to continue to have these places that have high insurance where they can't create a profit. And if you can't create a profit, there's no way we can get companies to make the investment. No one wants to go in business to lose money. They want to go in business because we're a capitalistic society. They want to go in business to make money, and rightfully so. So we need to do as a community and as individuals everything we can to rid our neighborhoods of the crime so that we can have some balanced insurance rates so that people can affordably start these businesses so that they can definitely have a profitable margin.
And you know, that's one of the areas of focus for our upcoming report in terms of the state of Black Chicago, the disparate cost of insurance. And I think you'll find that some of that is driven by crime, but some of it is also driven by historic redlining. And that's the thing that we have to be very careful about, trying to determine what the source of the underwriting is, why that insurance is more. One of the things that we're doing, and we have developed this initiative as a part of the planned One Central development. And even though that development is focused on the area around the metro station between the Museum campus and McCormick Place, the plan for the extension and for the investment in business, the investment in job training, the investment in education will go all along the south side and west side corridor, because we know that in order to establish a business, you need capital, you need to have insurance, you have to be able to get bonded, whether you're in construction or in other businesses. And that's why the investment and the extension of so many of the investments that we've seen in the downtown and near downtown area has to be so intentional.
Yeah, it's a good client of ours doing One Central, so hopefully he can pull that off, but he has a very good plan there, I think, and be like a 10-year plan, but I think the investment that can be made and he's willing to make in those other markets is terrific. The jobs, how he's going to create, staff those is terrific, and it's a good start. But I think you're right, Pastor. The crime is what, you can talk about redlining in terms of insurance, but I think most of the insurance companies don't do that. I think the problem is the crime. I say that because when we opened up our branches down there, it only took a day before we had somebody knock a window out to this other stuff. Crime we're sticking it out. I don't care. We're going to be there. We're going to help as we can, but it's scary for people down there, and it's a problem. And I think you're right, Pastor Brooks. You got to stop the crime. But you got to stop the habitual too. I mean, you've got to get these guys, get them back in society, put them in prison. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me, especially the young guys. Make them learn. Give them some purpose in life other than shooting people. Melissa?
Well, you want to draw us to a close, Ed?
I will. I want to thank both of you for being on today. It's awesome. I hope our audience will support you in every way they can. It's a very important, and this is our town. We got to do something with it. So I said at the beginning, these two people, and too bad the other fellow couldn't join us, but they're doing something about it. They're not just talking and yakking about it. They're actually doing the work. And it's getting down to the nitty gritty. poor pastor's been on that roof for 1,000 years now. But I admire you for doing it, and you both deserve our support because you're trying to make a difference, and you are. So thank you very much. Melissa, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you for having us. And Pastor, thank you for what you do on a daily basis. And thank you, Ed, for what Wintrust does to you and Melissa.
Thank you all. And thank you, Ed, for leading another riveting conversation. We've had such great chatter in the chat. And before we let you all go, what is something that individuals who are tuned in, what can they do to help your mission?
Well, I always tell people there's three things, and I'll give it to you. I'll drop it like it's hot. So here it is. Number one, we need your time. We need you to give us some of your time. We know everyone is busy, but the thing about virtual and Zoom is that we can give each other time now from faraway places. So we need your time. Secondly, we need your talent. We need volunteers who are gifted, skilled, and have the abilities to share some of those talents with individuals in our neighborhood, whether it's entrepreneurs who need a mentor or some small kid that needs a mentor. We need your talent. And then the third thing is we need your treasure. We're going to build a $35 million facility here on the south side of Chicago that is going to transform the lives of a lot of people. And it's going to be the home of one of Wintrust Bank's local establishments. So we got to build this center. So please go to projecthood.org and share the word, if you would, projecthood.org, and give toward our efforts. We would greatly appreciate it.
Time, treasure, and talent. Got it. Thank you, Pastor Brooks. Karen?
Pastor Brooks has laid it out, but the only other thing that I would add, whether it is Project Hood or whether it is the Chicago Urban League, determine how you can be a part of the solution. Sometimes it's volunteering an hour a week. Sometimes it's providing expertise that you have and your willingness to, just provide that on a one-off basis. It doesn't have to be every week. It can be, saying that you'll commit 2 hours to setting up, establishing a framework, doing something on for so many organizations that are engaged in this work. And you don't have to look far. Whether you go to one of our websites, ours is chiul.org, but there are any number of worthy organizations in our community who are striving to make a difference. And we would invite you and in fact encourage you to support one of our organizations so that we can continue that good work.
Thank you. Thank you. That is a word in due season. Again, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your words, to the work that you're doing. We wanted this program to be a call to action. So you wrapped it up well. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get more involved or learn more about these powerful organizations, here are your URLs here. I believe they were also listed in the chat. Reach out, click in, see how you can help. And at a minimum, if you can send them $5, I'm sure they appreciate it and put it to good use. So with that, thank you very much.
Hey, Melissa, I want to thank
Yeah.
our folks at Chicago Innovation again for hosting, put on a great show. They always do. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't do it without you, Paul and Luke and your teams. Thank you so much. Again, have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to hear more about the Chicago Sinfonietta, please do reach out there as well at chicagosinfonietta.org and look for their May concert. Thank you very much. Have a great holiday, Black History Month, and we'll see you again soon.
Take care, everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thanks, Melissa, Karen, Pastor Brooks. Appreciate it.
Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.